ABC just released new photos for this week's The Bachelorette and dropped clues of who the final four will be. Hey guys, welcome back to another shared news from home. We are so excited to discuss more Bachelorette bombshells, but before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. Today I'm joined by Gabby and Avery.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey guys. All right, we have so much to talk about, so let's get down to business. Now, next week is jam-packed with hometowns, the men tell all, and Bennett is back, and then eventually Blake finally got his one-on-one date with Tayshia. So do you guys think Blake and Bennett will make it to the hometowns? What do you guys think about that?
I'm not sure. I think Blake has been one who's, not as vocal and, present on the group dates. Sometimes we're like, oh, Blake was on this date or Blake is still here. So I think depending on how their one-on-one goes is really going to be challenging for if he stays any farther into hometowns. But I just really haven't seen a connection developing between both of them. So my vote for Blake is no. In terms of Bennett, he's really a toss-up because he's just caused so much drama. But at the end of the day, Tayshia has said that she really likes him, and she was really on the fence when it was coming down to keeping him or not. And then he came back, and she got another chance to let him stay. So that one's a toss-up for me. I don't think he's going to end up going to hometowns just because the other guys are so much more unproblematic and just probably better for her in the long run. But those are my two votes.
I don't think either of them will make it to hometowns. If we just look at the group of men left, them compared to, people like Ivan, Zach, we see a lot more of them, Ben, Brendan, and Bennett, or Blake especially gets lost, I just don't see them having a connection. I feel like if they did, we would have known by now. And Bennett, he got sent home for a reason the first time. I don't see why he would stay much longer now that he's came back.
Definitely. And I feel like Blake is always in the background and a little bit too much in the background that we kind of forget about him, that he's even there in the beginning. So I feel like he hasn't really been a front runner and Tayshia doesn't really seem to have Blake on her radar really at all. And with Bennett, him coming back, I get he wanted to redeem himself and really fight for Tayshia, but it just doesn't seem like his personality and Tayshia's personality really clicks. And Bennett seems the type of person that's very condescending, like we've seen in previous episodes. So it doesn't seem really promising to either of them, I gotta say. Now, so the Men Tell All will air this Tuesday, and a lot of familiar faces and drama will be returning to the screen, like Demar, Ed, Jason, Kenny, and everyone's favorite Yosef. What do you guys think will go down during this season's Men's Tell All?
Oh, so much. I think Bachelor Nation is going to be so excited for this episode. I think we weren't even sure if we were going to get one because of all the COVID issues, bringing these guys back into the same room. But it's going to be crazy. I think we've already seen in some promo clips, the guys are yelling at each other. They're accusing each other of things. Yosef, I'm pretty sure Yosef is asked to apologize for his just irrational behavior on the show for the short-lived period of time that he was on it. And from what it looks like, he doesn't apologize and doesn't really seem to care about the other guy's opinion. So my guess is overall these guys have been pretty chill and laid back, but once they're in the same room together again, it's going to be pure chaos.
Yeah, I'm really happy they're doing a Men Tell All because I know for a second it was being questioned if they were. So I'm glad we're getting that. And I just think compared to other seasons, this group of men haven't been that controversial, except for people like Yosef. He was probably the biggest villain and he got eliminated pretty early. So I'm definitely anticipating some drama since he'll be in the room. And, just the fact that it's after the show, people always have something to say. They're done recording. So I think there'll be extra drama on this episode, which we love,
Oh, for sure. The more the drama, the better. And what's interesting is during the promo clip, they surprisingly showed Riley, Blake, and Noah. And viewers can kind of assume that means that they got axed. I don't know if you guys noticed that. And then another weird moment that I also caught in the promo was when Tayshia was walking out, they had this wide shot of everyone in the studio showing all the men. but they weirdly blacked out what seems to be Bennett and Riley's faces on the sofa, like two bodies that were sitting down. They just blacked out the faces. So I think it's safe to assume that they didn't make the final four. So who do you guys think the final four will be for Tayshia?
For
Okay.
a while now, I've been thinking ever since his first date, which was early on, I thought Brendan, Bennett, or not Bennett, sorry, Ben has always been a front runner for me. And Ivan and Zach, those, she seems to have the strongest connection with them. And we seem to be seeing a lot of them. You know, I feel like the people with the most camera time sometimes early on are the ones who end up staying the longest.
I would have to agree. Those four are definitely in my top. I think they're in Tayshia's top right now, too. We still have a little bit more footage to see of her getting to know a couple of the other guys before she, you know, makes those cuts and gets down to it. But that's a very interesting point, what you were saying about the Men Tell All clips where they were sort of blacking out the faces in some of the guys, because it makes sense that they are sort of, you know, teasing or giving us the answers to who goes home, because we still have Monday night's episode before Tuesday. So it's like, if they didn't do that, we would literally know already. But so I think that's interesting. But I do think it's probably Bennett and Riley that end up at the Men Tell All and not, you know, continuing their relationship with Tayshia.
Okay. That's interesting. And let's say I'm wrong, but you know, Bennett did make a reappearance, and the audience does love a redemption story. But do you think Tayshia would take him back or kick him to the curb again?
I just don't think she would take him back. Compared to the people I just mentioned, you know, they don't have that strong of a connection. They don't really actually seem like a match to me at all. I feel like Bennett came back for dramatic effect. You know, he is a character and they needed a little extra umph on the show. You know, things weren't that chaotic, and, you know, producers probably were like, let's throw Bennett back in. I don't think it's necessarily about his relationship and Tayshia, because it is, the relationship isn't that strong.
I agree. I think it's tough when, you know, drama ends up happening in the house, as it did with Bennett and Noah. And then from there on out, every single conversation those guys have with Tayshia is about that drama. What's going on? Let's watch this. Like, do I need to talk to both of you together alone? So then it just really wastes so much time for them to get to actually know Tayshia. Whereas the other guys who stay out of it, they're actually progressing their relationships. So I think if Bennett and Tayshia were to have a great spark or really to end up together in the end, they would have just had to have a drama-free experience and have taken that time to actually get to know each other. So I think mostly for that reason specifically, she is not going to give him that second chance, even though she hasn't now, because these other guys are just so much more progressed in their relationships. And she's just trying to take those steps and bigger strides and get to the end to see if she can actually get engaged to one of these guys. And I don't think they're quite there yet.
I do think a lot of the viewers kind of got a bad taste in their mouth when Bennett and Noah kind of got in their catty fights. And yes, I'm going to use the word catty because, again, it was just so immature. And then Tayshia even said, you guys are fighting like boys, like teenage boys. And it just seemed like, again, Bennett was just very condescending. And then it also came down to Bennett insulting Tayshia's decision-making skills. And it's also interesting because when Tayshia first eliminated Bennett, Bennett said that he was surprised. He was like shocked. And again, he's kind of thinking her decision-making skills aren't the strongest because he was so shocked that he was leaving, instead. So I just feel like from the start, they just kind of got on the wrong foot and have stayed on the wrong foot. And unfortunately, him thinking he can come back, he thought he could fix it all, but I just don't think it's going to work either. So I definitely agree with you guys. So we saw the pictures that confirm Blake finally getting his one-on-one date with Tayshia. Now, looking at those pictures, one important thing we noticed was Tayshia's dress. Now, hear me out, you guys. In the promo clip, we see Tayshia wearing the same dress she wore on Blake's date. We see her getting emotional by the curbside as if she just sent someone home. If we connect the dots, it seems like this took place right after Blake's one-on-one date, which led fans to speculate that Blake was the one eliminated. Now, do you guys buy this, or do you think it's just one of those instances of Bachelor producers making unrelated edits in the promos?
I think he was eliminated after this date. Just because of everything we've just said, once again, I don't see this date making or breaking it. I just don't think they've had that strong of a connection. He hasn't really been that present, at least on camera, as far as seeing him and Tayshia together. I feel like most of the time we see him just with the other guys, you know? So I feel like this was definitely hard for her, and that's why she's crying. And they went through a lot of spiritual healing. Maybe she had an awakening that Blake was not the one for her. And it's just getting down to the point where it's hard to see more people go, and it's getting realer. So emotions are high, but I definitely do not think he stays.
First of all, I want to say when I first saw this picture of Blake and Tayshia, I thought this was his mom or something, and that he had made it to hometowns. I was like, how did they spoil that for us? Like, how did they like give us this photo which shows this Blake on hometowns? And like, how did he even make it to hometowns? Because I feel like he's not one of the top guys. But then I realized this is actually their one-on-one date, and that's most definitely not his mom. So based on that, based on the actual question at hand, though, this dress that she's wearing in both shots, I think, you know, she wouldn't be crying devastated on the floor outside if something big didn't happen on their date. And it certainly looks like, you know, a place where one of their big like SUV or limos could have pulled up when she was sending Blake home. And maybe they really, you know, connected on their one-on-one date and actually had some good moments and became friends and like just furthered their relationship a little bit. But, you know, she probably realized that it wasn't quite there yet. And so ended up having to send him home. But it's always hard when you're breaking up with somebody, you know, through this whole journey. And I'm sure Blake was upset about it. So I do think that he ends up going home based on these photos.
Definitely. I think so as well. And again, seeing him on the Men Tell All promo, it just kind of confirmed that as well. And unfortunately, again, like he didn't get a lot of camera time. Sometimes the camera would pan to him just, I guess, include him because they forgot about him. But yeah, it just didn't seem like he had the best of luck, the best of a connection and chemistry with Tayshia. And unfortunately, I mean, it's interesting to see the way that she's reacting. Maybe it's not necessarily about Blake, but maybe, again, she's just overwhelmed and it's just getting really frustrating for her to finally figure out the final four, heading to hometowns. You know, there's a lot of stress involved as well. But honestly, I gotta say, I really wasn't surprised that Blake most likely did get eliminated. All right, so now all we can do is stay tuned and see really how this will all play out. All right, you guys, one final question. Now, of course, we see all the emotion that's just kind of coming out of Tayshia as she's, you know, bending down and she's so emotional. So what do you think kind of caused Tayshia to send Blake home and cause that much of a reaction?
Well, it could be a lot of things. I know we remember from Easy's date, he put himself out there and told her that he was falling for her. And I think that scared her a little bit because she wasn't at that point yet. So either it's going to be a repeat of the Easy date where Blake does the same thing and sort of shares a lot of his heart on his sleeve, and then Tayshia's not quite there, so she ends up sending him home. Or I even think it could be just the fact that maybe Blake, you know, on the other side doesn't open up at all, because I know what Tayshia said, like with Ben's recent date, she likes Ben a lot, but she really needs him to open up more if they can, you know, progress their relationship. So maybe that happens with Blake, where she's really like trying to pull something out of him. And I know he opened up a little bit on that art portrait date where he was talking about how his childhood was rough. So I think if he gets into that, then maybe they can cross some new territory. But if he, you know, puts his walls up, then that might be a reason that she sends him home.
I totally agree with you. I think it could go one or two ways. Maybe like Easy's date and she realizes she's not there yet and just kind of abruptly sends him away. Or, you know, maybe they both realize this isn't it. But I feel like she wouldn't be crying like that if it was that easy. So I think it was getting hard for her to send him home, and she just had another realization, like, there's no reason for me to keep you here, and has to say goodbye to someone else.
Yeah, I definitely think her just being overwhelmed and stressed with, you know, hometowns coming up and everything just kind of, you know, kind of broke her. And unfortunately, I don't think it was necessarily her crying about Blake, but just kind of the combined situation and all these emotions kind of being intermingled with all these four guys and like who to take forward and move forward and meet their families. So I think it was just like a whirlwind combination of just stress in general. But all we can do is stay tuned and definitely see how how this will play out in the long run. All right, guys, that's all we have to share with you for now. As always, we want to know your thoughts, so tell us down in the comments below. Who do you think the Final Four will be, and will Bennett be one of them, or Blake? Let us know what you think, and before you go, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, because we'll be back with more Bachelor news as the season continues to unfold. Thank you, Gabby and Avery, for joining us today. And don't forget, make sure to follow us on all our socials on the screen, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.